What's up, Trainiacs? Welcome to this week's Triathlon News Day Tuesday. This week, a high-profile coach comes clean speaking out against Triathlon New Zealand. A pal of ours wins a full Ironman, and Lance Armstrong raced again. For the comment. So what's up, triathletes? Welcome to this week's Triathlon News Day Tuesday, where every single Tuesday we talk about the goings-on around the triathlon world. As always, make sure you stick around to the end of the video, where everyone's favorite part of Triathlon News Day Tuesday, a story from the Trainiac community, is shared. And as always, full links to everything we talk about are in the description below. Let's start off with Triathlon New Zealand, which has been encompassed in drama over the last few weeks. And just recently, a very high-profile coach, Chris Pillone, who has coached athletes to gold medals in the Olympics, came out speaking against Tri New Zealand, saying that if the secretive tactics that they've been using over the last few years are not fixed, Tri New Zealand should not be entitled to the $750,000 in taxpayer funding that it gets every single year. Now, this comes just shortly after the high-performance director, Mark Elliott, left Tri New Zealand amidst investigations against not himself, but Tri New Zealand with multiple sports based on the balance that Tri New Zealand and all these other sports were taking in performance versus the well-being of their athletes. Now, speaking to an athlete, not from New Zealand, but Australia, he had told me stories of how 10 to 12 years ago in high-performance racing, those down-under high-performance directors were pushing their athletes basically to starve themselves to get down to such a low weight that it was unhealthy, but they were willing to sacrifice the potential for good performance for the athlete's well-being. Now, all of these coaches are now starting to come out, speaking out against these tactics and saying that Tri New Zealand needs to be more open and honest if they are going to take public funding. Now, let's get into why I'm sure a whole bunch of you clicked this video. Lance Armstrong raced again. Now, granted, it wasn't a cycling event, it wasn't a triathlon, it was a swim-run event, but I had to include it here because I love seeing what happens in the comments every time I talk about he who must not be named. Lance competed with Canadian triathlete and gold medal winner from the Olympics Simon Whitfield in the San Juan swim run, which included 18 total miles of running and 2.5 total miles of swimming across 13 different runs and 12 different swims. It's broken up: swim, run, swim, run, swim, run. They finished third overall, 30 minutes behind the eventual winners John Steeves and my buddy from Purple Patch, Matt Hurley. Congrats, Matt. I haven't mentioned that on Instagram, and I just realized today that you won. So congrats to him, and let me hear what you think about Lance Armstrong doing a race again. I can't wait. I can't wait for the comments. Now let's get right into some of the funnest racing that happens over the course of the year. The Super League Jersey. The grand final happened over the course of the weekend with Katie Zaferes defending her title and Vincent winning his first Super League title. This is a really interesting race format. It's a two-day race, with the first day being what's called the triple mix, with swim, bike, run, not necessarily in that order, 3 times with 10 minutes in between. Going on to the next day, they have what's called the Enduro. And that race on the second day is swim, bike, run, 3 times through, no breaks. It is a barf fest. Now, it's always fun to see different formats of races, with triathlon as a whole being basically dominated by Ironman and one swim, bike, run event and company that holds these events. It's nice to see different types and formats and races and types of athletes doing better than just the same names and the same types of races over and over and over. In Ironman racing, however, not to poo-poo it, Ironman 70.3 Cozumel was won by Michael Weiss and Ellie Salthouse, while Ironman 70.3 Portugal was won by Fernando Alarza and Agnieszka Jerzyk. I know I screw that up every single time she wins. She just keeps winning, and I still don't know how to say it. But the big news of the weekend was another win by new pal of ours, Canadian Cody Beals, in full Ironman Chattanooga. The swim was canceled in Chattanooga, but it was still a full bike run, going the full 180 kilometers and a full marathon at the end. And Cody Beals won in convincing fashion, winning by over 11 minutes over our other pal, Matt Russell. Now what's really interesting about this is just Cody's second attempt at the full Ironman distance, and he won in his first attempt in Ironman Mont Tremblant, beating Lionel Sanders. So going 2 for 2, I can't think of anyone who has won their first 2 cracks at the full Ironman distance. And why we say Cody is a new pal is because just this Sunday we published a new podcast where we interviewed Cody Beals. He talked about a little bit about Ironman Mont Tremblant, a little bit about how he recovered from low testosterone years ago, and he actually talked a lot about being one of triathlon's only openly gay male triathletes and how he feels now a responsibility to be a role model because he wished he had had that when he was a kid. Really deep stuff. He's an awesome guy and one of No Triathlon Kim's favorites. Stay tuned for more podcasts coming up. We still have yet to publish Ben Canute, Emma Pallant, of course, Kona's coming up, so we got some good things coming. And if you haven't heard, we are the most highly ranked triathlon podcast in the world on Apple Podcasts. Just saying, it's really good. Mostly because of Kim, not me. I just make sure not to curse too much and that the microphone is recording, which I screwed up last week. So let's get into everyone's favorite part of Tri News Day, and that is a story from the Trainiac community. Today's story comes from Christine Tyler, who says, I was recently challenged to start saying my goals out loud, even though they seem crazy and sometimes impossible. So here's my story. I used to run long distance, track and cross country in high school and college. Since graduating in 2015, I've had 3 babies and not done much training. About a year ago, I ran a race and had so much fun. I realized how much I missed competition and decided I want to give triathlon a try. I have 3 daughters. One is 2.5, one is 1.5, and the youngest is 3 months. Life is wild, and I've been pretty creative to squeeze my workouts in. Hello, 5 a.m., but I love it. Training time is the time that I make for myself. It helps me to have the energy to chase 3 kiddos around and the peace to endure the chaos that they can sometimes bring. I think it'll be so good for my girls to see me pursuing something I am passionate about as well. The biggest challenge lately has been overcoming the doubts that I have about how this seems crazy and that I'm in over my head or that I'm taking too much away from my family. I'm also working through some of the negativity that tainted the end of my running career. So it's hard for me to tell people my dreams and the things that I want to do now when I haven't really even done anything. I still have yet to race a triathlon, and I'm still working on losing the baby weight. I think it's really important though, so I'm trying to start telling my friends and family my dreams of pursuing a competitive triathlon. I've been surprised at the support I've received, and every time I tell somebody else, I get more and more excited. I have plans to do a local sprint in the spring and hopefully a few Olympic distance races after that. Thanks so much for the videos, especially all the training tips. Happy training. You are so very welcome. And you might think this is kind of strange that I'm sharing a Trainiac story from somebody who hasn't even done a triathlon, but in this case, I think it's important to talk about this stuff that sometimes massive accomplishments and success aren't about beating a time or racing a longer race. Sometimes it's just about being able to get in whatever training you can and enjoying that process. So thank you very much for sharing that, Christine. If anyone else wants to get their story shared here on Triathlon News Day Tuesday, email me at Taren@triathlontaren.com. We only have a few stories in the hopper right now, so send them in. Like I say, you don't even have to have done a triathlon. Just do something fun, cool. And if you aren't already subscribed and you are digging these Triathlon News Days, hit the subscribe button below. And if you are subscribed, you are like me hearing news that Lance Armstrong is racing again, and I've got something to talk about on Tri News Day. I knew exactly what the thumbnail was going to look like when I heard that he was doing that. That's awesome. Just great. Keep doing it, Lance.